Now let's jump over to something that will aggravate and disgust all of us. The winner of Future Karens of America's #1 with a bullet award, Anna Kasparian, who wants to talk about how even though Democrats picked up, I think, 3 seats for national office, that some of the locals lost. So, you know, like flipped or whatever from a Democrat to a Republican in like fucking dog catcher. Or like we had a couple of the really left wing, like DAs lost their job, all that shit, right? That we're in deep shit apparently, because we didn't listen to TYT.
Now that the election results are finally in California, a state that takes a notoriously long time to tally everything up,
because they have a notoriously large number of human beings in the state.
Golden State Democrats are a little worried about a clear right-wing shift among voters who used...
Really? A right-wing shift? Really? They went right-wing, did they? They just decided, I can't... You know what? This brown woman bullshit is a step too far. I'm going with the orange dude, and I'm all in.
...to be dependable Democratic voters.
Yes, they used to be dependable Democratic voters, these people you're going to tell us about, I'm sure.
Now, it's not necessarily a right-wing shift. It's more that these are voters who are shift among voters who used to be worried about a clear right-wing shift.
A clear right-wing shift.
Among voters who
a clear right-wing shift. Gotcha, okay.
Used to be dependable Democratic voters. Now, it's not necessarily a right-wing shift.
Okay. Is it a cloudy right-wing shift instead of clear, or?
It's more that these are voters who aren't showing up to cast their ballots for Democrats anymore.
Anymore, or this time around because brown lady?
And they also made some surprising congressional gains.
Right, yes. Yeah, we gained House seats nationally in California.
Despite what we've noticed with some of these typical Democratic voters staying at home. So
even with the typical Democratic voters staying at home, Democrats picked up 3 seats in California. Clearly a right-wing shift.
Let's get into the details.
Please, because...
First, important to know that Trump flipped 10 counties red, and the state GOP picked off 3 legislative seats, despite being vast.
Yeah, state legislative seats that were oddly Democratic before.
Outspent. Okay, so
yeah, and the counties, what? There was a huge difference. We're obviously not talking about Los Angeles County.
That's some of
or Marin.
The evidence that there's been a little bit of change in California.
No. Excuse me. A point of order, Mr. Chairman. I was promised a clear shift to the right. What kind of namby-pamby bullshit?
Some of the evidence that there's been
obviously
a little bit of change in California, which is
a little bit of change in California. Oh, you mean the state that's had multiple Republican governors, for example, and has not been just a Democratic stronghold like everybody says, locked in forever, and Reagan, Schwarzenegger, anybody?
It's a deep blue state. So the biggest shift.
It's a deep blue state. Even the Republicans that run things have to be like purple to blue leaning.
Shift to the right is seen among Latino voters in the
that might be something to do with the lady thing.
State, which is a huge blow to the Democrats, clearly.
Clearly, except they picked up 3 states nationally and didn't really affect the numbers overall. Let me guess. Adam Schiff squeaked by with what do you have? 18%? 18% lead against his Republican opponent?
Historically, Democrats had been able to solidify support among Latino voters in California thanks to backlash over a previous proposition. It was known as Proposition 187. And that was an initiative that was targeting immigrants in the country illegally. And that moved Latino voters decisively toward the Democratic Party.
And well, yeah, that citation needed. But I would like to say that then clearly, if that did move them, and Trump's fucking I'm gonna sweep everybody out of the fucking country didn't, then it's either they're that misogynistic or they're the kind of people who want to pull the ladder up after themselves.
However, now polling suggests that the Prop 87 era is over.
Or 187 or 87, whatever works.
And Latino voters, unsurprisingly, are concerned about affordability in a state like California. High taxes, high housing prices, and they feel that the Democratic Party hasn't done enough to help them with this.
Right. So, and they feel this, they haven't, your words, the Democratic Party hasn't done enough to help them. And that lack of enough, they've done some stuff, clearly, or even or you wouldn't say enough. Anything would be the phrase, I guess. So clearly they think a little bit more help is worth the lives and well-being of, say, 4 million other people who got here the same way they did. Fuck off.
So a post-election poll conducted by a Democratic pollster named David Binder found that affordability and high cost of living in the state were the preeminent concerns among California's Latino voters. More than 3/4 of respondents said that California state government policies made prices much higher or somewhat higher.
Well, then that's why it was the legislature that went red comparatively and not the national offices and certainly not the presidential vote, I guess.
53% disapproved of how the government is addressing the economy, including jobs and the cost of living.
Cool. What would you say the alternative would be to what they're doing? So investment, clearly not a good idea. The rescue package was a mistake, obviously. Infrastructure, terrible way to use tax dollars. And so what are they supposed to do? Continue to trade in Xinjiang cotton so that the price of like shit at Walmart is cheaper? Is that the goal?
And guys, I can't emphasize enough how much resentment starts to build in a...
We get an idea. Yes, we understand, Anna. You've built up a lot of resentment over the years.
State where taxes are very high.
Yes, that's what it is. High taxation. And thank God you guys have always said we need to cut taxes. I mean, if there's one consistent message from the Young Turks, it's been lower taxes. We got to cut taxes everywhere we can. People are going to get tired of this. I know we're using it to fund things like education and the environment and stuff like that. But how many times we're all, yeah, here we go again. Cenk and Anna talking about cutting taxes. What?
But you also experience your quality of life diminish year after year after year.
Do you? Do you?
And you also see that you have less and less buying power because of, there's inflation throughout the country,
but California.
But that inflation is even more pronounced in a state like California, especially when it's tied to housing prices.
What? First of all, the inflation aspect of housing has been a double whammy in two fronts. One is supply shock from COVID, shut down the availability of appliances and fucking nails and wood because there weren't workers to cut and process the trees and to make the nails and factories and the likes and all the stuff you need to do it. The workers themselves couldn't show up. So that narrowed how much could come online at a time when people had more money in their pocket, and so they were willing to buy places. So everybody upgraded. A lot of people moved during the fucking pandemic because they were like, I need about 10 grand in savings more than what I have to put down on a house. And right in COVID, they got either a PPP loan or they got unemployment or something like that, and they couldn't go anywhere. So they just socked it away and bought a house. And so all the houses around here got bought up like crazy during that period, including the one we're in. Our house, we started building it right before COVID. A lot of people did that. In Nevada and in California, it's the same way. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. So look, there's an oddity here of the Democrats picking up 3 national seats.
Which is positive and helps with the balance of power in the House. It's not an oddity. She just explained to you that whoever these folks are, they think that the federal government problem with Democrats is not the same as the state government problem with Democrats.
In California, we'll get to that in a second, and I have a couple theories on that.
I have no doubt.
But overall, the Democrats got their clock cleaned in California. And
no, they didn't.
So when we talk about why, it's super important that we're honest with ourselves.
Absolutely. It's because dickheads like you did everything you could to diminish the vote, to drive down voter turnout.
Because if we're not, we'll just keep making the same mistake.
That's right. I appreciate that this video is them announcing that they're going to shut down their network and stop doing shows because they realized after all this time they have been doing more harm than good.
And the biggest state in the country will go more and more Republican.
Again, we've been Republican before. We've had multiple Republican governors before. We've had and still gone Democratic largely in the presidential races. That happens. It's California. God damn.
I got if the Republicans capture California, it's over.
I'm sorry, was it over when Reagan was governor of California? Was it over fucking like Schwarzenegger? What was the other guy? Gray or whatever? Jesus, I don't even remember.
It's over nationally completely. And we're not close to that now.
No, we're not. Right. So why even say a stupid fucking sentence like that? Oh, because this is more about the dopamine and fear roller coaster ride you put your viewers on than actual information.
Okay. So Adam Schiff was, in my opinion, a terrible candidate.
And understand, Cenk knows what he's talking about because he ran for a House seat and got spent $1 million to get 5% of the vote. So if anybody knows who's a good candidate and who isn't, and by the way, if the candidate gets elected, you could argue that they were the better candidate. Whether they're the better officer or the representative would be the conversation. But obviously, on a candidate level in a campaign, the winner became the better candidate. I think we can agree on that. Yeah. There was the guy before him. I'll remember. I know Gray Davis was a Democrat, but there was another Republican. I'm blitzing on his name because I don't care. I think it was, yeah. Anyways, so this guy, and by the way, all Cenk did when he ran was guarantee that the Democrat that had the best chance of winning lost because he spent his entire time attacking her. Yes, it was a female. We cannot let these women get into positions of power, right, Chunk? That he ran effectively against her, not against who would be the Republican rival.
Ran against Steve Garvey, who had almost no money, and he still beat him by 19. But
19%. Sorry, it was a percentage point lower than I thought.
19 is closer than what normally happens,
yes.
Especially because Garvey had no money at all, right? And so you see this red wave coming through the counties.
No, you don't.
Affecting the state legislature.
No, the state legislature and the governorship shifts all the time in Republican, from Democrat to Republican. Just Democrats have had a longer run lately.
Et cetera. And so when you ask them why they're going in this direction, the economy is a big part of it.
Right.
Like, so, and to me,
Right. And what benefits do they see from Trump versus the losses that Biden has given them? Break down the policy is what I would like to see. What the fuck are you talking about?
Most critical stat, I don't know if you were going to get to this, Anna, but Trump only picked up 75,000 votes in California in this election. But
so not so much a right shift.
But Kamala Harris, the Democratic leader, lost 1.8 million votes from Joe Biden.
Yes.
Yeah, but 2020 was everybody had their fucking ballot delivered to their house. Everybody lost huge since Biden on the Democratic side because it was a special circumstance in 2020. Trump lost millions of votes from 2020 as well. Also, she's a woman. And also, you guys do nothing but attack her and Biden the entire fucking time. So, gee whiz, maybe I don't know, maybe a mirror might help.
Okay.
True. Yep.
And so what that
It's true. Yeah, so true. So true.
shows you, it's not that the people woke up in California and were like, oh my God, I think Trump and the Republicans are so amazing and they're wonderful and we're now all Republicans. No. But they woke up and said, the Democrats haven't done something for me in so long.
Yeah, since the infrastructure bill and the CHIPS Act and the rescue package and I don't know, capping insulin at $35 and like the fucking ACA. It's been so long. And you know what? The Democrats haven't done something directly for me in so long. I would prefer the guy who won't do anything for me. And if anything, might get my relatives kicked out of the fucking country. I prefer that guy. I'm going to stay home.
That no, I'm not going to go vote for you because I have to, or it's my moral duty, or you're going to yell at me. No.
Also, if you need to be told something's your moral duty, then you have no sense of morals in that at all. Where's the moral argument where you have to tell someone that or force that upon themselves? It would be your moral duty, I guess, not to vote for Trump in that regard, if you wanted to hardline it.
You didn't deliver, so I'm not voting for you.
That's
Deliver what?
exactly right. Yes. So Harris.
Yes, so she did. Yeah, as vice president, she so did not deliver the way Trump did with
About 1.8 million votes less than Joe Biden did in 2020 in the state of California. And so, look, a lot of this has to do with people who just didn't feel motivated to show up and.
It's weird that you guys picture yourself as a motivating factor for your ideology and your belief systems, and they weren't motivated. Do you think maybe the demotivation scheme that you run might have been the fuck up?
Vote. Some people, like myself, did show up and vote, but I did not vote for either presidential candidate.
Then you didn't show up and vote. You didn't. If you left them blank or you voted third party in that regard, you absolutely didn't show up and make the moral choice. You left it to the fucking winds. Because, quite frankly, I think you wanted Trump to win. I think both of them did. That's what side of the bread their butter is on. And
so huge swaths of Latino voters specifically decided, I'm not going to vote for a presidential candidate here. And overall, there was a 9-point drop in voter turnout in the state.
From 2020, where everybody voted because we all had our votes postmated.
Now, a Republican consultant by the name of Mike Madrid says, I really want people to understand that the lack of voting, the lack of civic engagement is in and of itself a political statement.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. It's correlative, not causative. Everybody has too much shit on their plate to focus on the issues and vote anyways. You have to motivate people to do it. It's not a zero sum.
I totally agree with that. He continues. They finally left the bad relationship where this person is telling them over and over, I understand you. I get your needs. I hear what you're telling me, but then does not produce over and over and over again. Now they're finally saying, you know what? I'm out. And then
thank you, Anna and Chunk for pointing out how right a Republican pollster is about what we think as Democrats.
The final statement from Mike Madrid is, in many ways, that's worse for Democrats. And this is so true. They really do have
it's so true.
A hill to climb here, because they're not going to be able to get those voters back until they establish trust. So there's a really big burden on them, especially when the primary driver of affordability is housing. It's not like you can solve this by the midterms. And so this.
Well, hey, asshole, you can't solve it at all if you're out of power. So I think the argument would be is that Democrats were like, we've been working on this. We had a strategy. We had a plan and we were going to work it. And then you let Trump get in, or you elected him specifically. And now you're even more fucked. Arguably, it's the Republicans that have to put up or shut up in this situation. Do you think Donald Trump, even with his real estate buddies, is going to raise the amount of houses in a significant sense throughout the country to drive the cost of housing down with no plan to do so?
series focuses on the uphill battle for Democrats in the state of California.
Because TYT is always shaking the crab bucket and slicing the Achilles tendon of Democrats every chance they get.
Leading into the 2026 midterm elections. And by the way, in 2026, California is electing a new governor. Thank God.
Fuck you.
So we'll see how that all plays out.
Thank God. And by the way, she wants a Republican governor for California for a tax cut. Just listen to the general tenor of her entire argument.
But there are the ballot initiatives as well, because I think that's where it's become abundantly clear that voters in California have reconsidered their more left-wing positions on certain issues. So,
oh yeah, the ones you were pushing and attacking people like myself for a more moderating stance that attempted to deal with the seriousness of the issue without just fucking blindfolded hammering.
California voters actually approved 8 out of the 9 general election ballot measures endorsed by the state's Republican Party. The 9th, they just remained neutral on, and that was the one that would amend California's state constitution to protect gay marriage. Also, Prop.
Yeah. Here's a good thing. Don't tell us about the one they were neutral on. Tell us about the ones that they endorsed. Is it going to be like it was put the 10 Commandments in front of every school or any of that horse shit?
36, which imposes stricter penalties on some theft and drug crimes, easily passed with 70% of voters in favor of it.
Uh-huh.
And that reversed a decade-long trend in the state of California that embraced criminal justice reform and
you mean what you guys were talking about and shitting on cops about and arguing that about the racism of city halls and courthouses all across the fucking state? I mean the things you were advocating for in the dumbest, most simpleton way you could possibly articulate? You mean those things? The stuff you guys sell? The voters went, this doesn't work. This is bullshit. You mean the stuff that I went, that won't work. That's bullshit. A long time ago?
Basically went against the more tough on crime policies.
Yeah. So when they asked.
Well, again, Kamala Harris wrote a book called Smart on Crime, which was about tough when necessary, but an awareness of where stuff came from. And understanding the destabilization that happens in communities when they're, all that. Yeah, TYT was all about defund the police and the like. Just fucking shitty.
Yes, folks.
I got this. This seems like just a setup. These assholes are just trying to downshift into the money lane. Why you either went in Trump's direction or Republican direction or didn't vote. The two things that stood out by far the most were Democrats don't deliver. Based on what? Like what? What were they supposed to deliver? Did they get everybody vaccinated? Yeah. Did they get a rescue plan passed? Yes. Did they get an infrastructure bill passed? Yes. Did they get rural broadband out to the parts of California that don't have it? Yes. Lead pipes out of the fucking water? First president to stand on a union picket line? Fuck you. This is just fucking lazy. That's what this is.
What have we been telling you on the show?
Right. Well, no, not telling people, lying about.
For 20 straight years. You got.
Yeah. When the ACA has gotten 24 million people insurance and kept kids on their insurance till they were 27, which absolutely saved lives. You guys were like, scuttle all of it. Fuck it. If we can't get Medicare for all, we don't get anything. If we don't get everything, nobody gets anything. That's the TYT moniker. And if we'd have followed them on this, there would have been none of the advances, including caps on insulin and the like, because they were against Biden from the fucking start.
Got to deliver. If you don't deliver, at some point you're going to lose these folks.
Or if people are listening to assholes like you and they're like, wow, he said that they don't deliver. Who am I supposed to believe? Them or my lying eyes?
And you can scream at them all you want. Oh, if you're a Latino, you must vote.
Yeah, nobody Like, come on. Is that why they were yelling at him? You're brown. You have to vote brown. This is voting brown. Or how about why, if you're a Latino, why wouldn't you vote for the Democrat in this situation versus Trump, who is literally going to have a racist purge policy as soon as he gets in office? And they're literally talking about like, hey, sorry, if parts of your family are illegal, you can either go with them or never see them again. Fuck you. That sounds pretty cut and dry.
Democrat. Well, not anymore. They don't feel any obligation to. No.
Bullshit. Say we're back to like fucking California numbers before COVID. Stop trying to like sign your name on checks that aren't for you.
Number 2 reason was crime. And what did we tell you over the last 2 years?
You fuckwad.
Crime, right?
Yeah.
Well, since it happened to Anna.
And a lot of folks yelled at us and said, no, let's all pretend it doesn't exist. You can pretend all you like. The voters actually feel it or they don't feel it. And it's not about just right-wing.
Yes, it is. Because they didn't lose she didn't lose Los Angeles. They didn't lose San Francisco. That would be the places everybody keeps pointing to. Where were all the videos coming from? Fucking San Francisco. Who lost their job? Like the DA there who was a moron. But it's not like she lost San Francisco. What are you, nuts?
Narratives or messaging, etc. Because what was the equivalent of Prop 36 to increase penalties was tried 2 years ago and it didn't, I think 4 years ago, and it didn't work because people didn't feel crime. Now they feel the crime and they're like, oh yeah. So look, 9 counties go to.
So which voters are we talking about? People that don't give a fuck about stuff until it affects them? They sound like Republicans anyways.
Trump, 8 out of 9 ballot measures goes to the Republicans, including the most important one, Prop 36, to increase penalties.
And again, why is that a Republican one? If Democrats went that way too, because they just thought they were too lax, that doesn't, again, this should be a relatively bipartisan issue. If there's an imbalance, correcting that balance doesn't necessarily, it's not tipping left to right, it's tipping towards a just and reasonable conclusion or not. Right? If it had been imbalanced, then Democrats and Republicans voted for it to create that balance again. It doesn't make it left or right. Unless you can point to me something that in left-wing politics, we shouldn't have prisons at all. Like, I think the people who think we should have no prisons are the same as like sovereign citizens on the right. That everybody's a traveler as long as you're wearing fucking shoes or some dipshittery.
Xana pointed out 7 out of 10, not close.
8 out of 9.
No, 7 out of 10 voters on Prop 36.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, you're right.
And that's in a massively Democratic state, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that just means that the way the law was being interpreted in mostly these, with the rise of these DAs, was reset. It didn't work. They experimented with looser rules and no cash bail and those kind of things, and it was a failed experiment. That was the view of the voters. It wasn't like, now that I'm a Democrat, I mean, now that I've seen a crime, I'm voting with the Republicans. It's not how it went at all.
So now when you go to the oddity of the Democrats who won the national seats, congressional seats.
Yeah, it's so odd in California that Democrats picked up 3 seats on the national races. It's so odd.
As the red wave was taking over California otherwise.
It wasn't a red wave. There was such an imbalance that it centered back around that stuff. You could argue that even the thing about higher penalties for certain kinds of theft, because organized crime was finding gaps in the law and exploiting it by getting like homeless people and drug addicts to run into places, fill up a basket of shit, and then they would give them drugs or money when they got out of there, and they were running this big scheme. That person, if they finally got arrested, they could, they could be charged with this giant RICO case, but they couldn't charge the people that they were using for these things who, were involved in this organized crime on the same thing, because they couldn't tie them to just that lower amount of stuff, even though it was multiple events. This was an imbalance created by, the road to hell being paved with good intentions, and it needed to be rectified. That's it. Yes, and crime is down materially, but COVID was, again, an outlier. And this fucking shit about money and how expensive things are and blah, blah, fucking blah. Again, that's largely supply shock from COVID and us no longer using slave labor in China for shit. It's going to drive the price up. Sorry, kids.
So my theories on that are, number one, none of the stories talked about it, but we always talk about it in the red states, and we never talk about it in the blue states, even though people acknowledge, oh, the blue states do it too, which is gerrymandering. So I don't know how much of a factor that was, because...
Then don't bring it up, fuckwad. Don't imply it if you have no basis for it.
All of the articles are religiously avoiding it?
Yeah, I'm going to get into that actually, real quick, because I looked into it. But before I do, I have to give you this. I've never read a quote that resonated with me more than this one does. So I'm going to read.
This is it. All right. I almost made a Mein Kampf joke.
Okay, so Jessica Milan Patterson, who's the chairperson for the state Republican Party, says that
nothing has resonated more with Anna Kasparian than a quote from the chairperson of the state Republican Party.
The voters' approval of things like Prop 36 was a sign that voters were increasingly agreeing with her party on ideas that the first step to bring them over to GOP candidates and eventually identifying as Republicans themselves.
Yeah, totally. I can see that just resonates so much. It's like a tuning fork for a moral future.
Not the part that I completely agree or resonates with me. This one does.
Ah, okay, good. Whew. I thought that was a little kind of...
You don't get red-pilled overnight. It's the issue.
This is why. Yeah, all right. Because Anna's just saying, I got red-pilled. It didn't happen all at once, you assholes.
Issues that affect your everyday life first, and then you connect them with people, and then you connect it with a party. That is so true, and that is what our...
Wait, hold on. Why would you connect it with the Republican Party then? How's that going to bring you to voting for a guy who was friends with Jeffrey Epstein for 2.5 fucking decades and wants to use the army on American soil, declare an emergency, and have effectively martial law to broom out every brown person that doesn't have their ID on them and their family, even if they know they're American citizens or they never get to see their kin again? How do you jump to that? How do you go from, I think we might have gone too far in the cash bail thing, to, you know what? Fuck the gays. Women should be broodmares for the state. Where the fuck is that leap? Is it that simple, Anna? By the way, this is a shot of her getting ready to kiss Trump's asshole.
Trying to get across to people, when you're affected day to day by quality of life issues.
No, not even true. Not true at all. If you're affected by quality of life issues and someone, I don't know who, comes along and tells you, you know why this is a problem, they're the reason you're experiencing this. They are. It's you know what it is? It's the Democrats, because they just won't do anything about this. They got open borders. The border's not open. Yes, it is. I heard it on Fox News. And if you listen to them, if you have a problem with somebody and you're like, oh my God, I can't get a job, but there's these people standing out in front of Home Depot every time I go there, and they all seem to get work and all this stuff, then, clearly this open border is affecting me as a typist. The fuck out of here.
And all you hear from the Democratic Party is shut up. No, it's not happening. And if it's
that's not what anybody said.
Happening, it's not that big of a deal.
Nobody said it wasn't a big deal. Nobody said it wasn't happening. They were honestly speaking about it being a result of COVID, post-COVID, and society opening back up again, and opportunistic criminals taking advantage of some things. But nobody's robbing these stores. What are you talking about? Nobody's running in and grabbing shit. They were literally busting these gangs in San Francisco. But did you carry that part? Did you carry that story? I think you might have even once.
Man, that really does.
Man.
Red pill people, it builds resentment toward the party. And I really think the Democrats need to pivot away from that, because they're going to keep losing if they think that type of treatment of voters, that type of disrespect toward voters is going to get them anywhere.
So defending minorities and homeless people, when people go, all these homeless people are loitering around, they're criminals and drug addicts and murderers and rapists and that kind of stuff. And because my friend had an experience, that defending, the vast majority of people who find themselves homeless, or the vast majority of people who are seeking asylum, let's say, who come here, by doing that, you're somehow denying the reality of people who actually are affected. When this whole shit about Trump going, the first people we're going to get out of the country are the criminals and the murderers and the rapists and the blah, blah, blah. We already do that, fuck me.
So, look, I do something that apparently not a lot of other people in politics or media do. I talk to normies.
Oh, you mean like Pierce Morgan?
People who don't follow politics and news religiously, right? And so
for example,
in California, whenever you talk to normies and you ask them about Biden, what's the first thing they would say? Too old. Every single person. Democrat, Republican, it didn't matter.
Is that the first thing that came out of their mouth? Too old? And you go, and did you go, no, I don't mean that part. I mean, like, we got an infrastructure bill passed. We hadn't had one for almost for 2.5 decades. And probably the biggest one in history, and he was, because of his time in the Senate, he was able to help negotiate that and craft that bill because he was aware of all the parts in order. You think that was good or bad? You for that or you against it? No, they said too old, and you went, totally, fuck that guy.
Because they all have eyes. And so if you're not watching Morning Joe and having him brainwash you every morning about, no,
Morning Joe's gave Trump his run.
Oh, he's young and dynamic. You're going to see Biden once, twice, and go, oh, he's way too old. What's he doing running for office, right? But in the case of California, specifically in this topic that we're talking about, every single normie said crime's out of control. We're worried. We're scared. We're nervous. I had a friend that had this happen to. I had this that happened to that. So you see it in the stats. You see it in the anecdotes. You see it in every single normal person that you talk to. So when our side said no, they're all being, nervous Nellies for no reason. They're imagining it. What it did was
Okay, they didn't say that. That's a straw man. You're lying for them. I don't know. Maybe. Please bring up a fucking quote from somebody like, there is no crime. What they could say is crime is actually down, and it was up significantly after COVID because there was almost none, and it spiked because everybody stayed home, and it was harder to target people for opportunistic crime when no one's on the fucking street. God damn, these people are
down on their anger towards Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
Because they said, number one, I'm angry at you because there's crime and you're not doing anything about it. And number two, when you gaslight me and tell me there is no crime, then I'm starting to get mad at you.
Okay, that's how you articulated it. The reality is a lot of them were like, they just didn't like the no cash bail talk. They didn't like defund the police. That became a pervasive talking point. Everybody, especially in minority neighborhoods, were like, this is fucking stupid. If you cut police funds, it isn't the rich neighborhood that's going to be short of cops. It's us. That's why they went against it. And there was and the slacktivist class, like this motherfucker, who'd been talking positively about the idea of ACAB and fucking no cash bail and all these kind of things for years, suddenly had to walk their shit back because they were selling something that didn't work.
Right.
Yep.
And so that's when the red pill happened.
Right. No, not right.
Yeah.
So we're trying to block that, stop that from happening. And you've seen some of the fights that have happened on our side. But so let me get back to
what do you mean between the two of you?
Why the Democrats is the national level one in California, because one is partly gerrymandering. Anna, you said you were going to get into that. I don't know if you've got more on that. Secondly, we had
moron being the operative word.
Way more money than the Republicans did in California. So we were not only able to spend more money on ads, but we got out the vote better. We did same day registration. And some of these we barely won by like 800 votes and 160 votes, et cetera. And so we did a good job with that and had more money. But
we did? Suddenly it's we? Suddenly you're a fucking Democrat? What the fuck do you mean we?
Finally, the issues mattered.
Did we? Sorry. When we did same day registration, was TYT out same day registering people? Were they walking around? They, going to polling places like, so ma'am, why are you weeping? I was going to vote, but I'm not registered. Well, I'm Chunk Uger, and I'm here to fix that.
Because none of them ran on democracy. None of them ran on what the Biden and Kamala Harris ran on.
Correct.
They all ran on three major things. One is get prices down, okay? Like kitchen table issues, economic issues.
Yeah, and again, every time Biden tried to lower, reverse people's student loans and that kind of stuff, you guys are like, never happened, and fuck him anyways, and they're probably doing it for the wrong reason, and blah, blah, blah.
To abortion. Abortion made a huge difference in California, and it made people reluctant to vote for Republicans on the national level.
It also drove down the 1.8 million that Kamala lost, because Latinos are, in large part, in certain blocks, certain areas, I mean, I'm sure there's seas of them that aren't, are Catholic and pro-life.
Because we know abortion's not getting taken away in California, but we're worried it might get taken away nationally if you send the wrong people to Congress.
So we're going to, send the wrong people to the state legislature so they'll get a shot at it? What the fuck?
By the way, California voters, that's super rational. Way to go. You voted at the local level in the way that you want, but at the national level, you did the right thing by voting for Democrats so your abortion rights don't get taken away, in my opinion. And lastly, and this was super important, they all ran on pro-Prop 36.
Yeah, they did.
They all said, let's increase the penalties for crime, and they won. So they were able to...
Right. So it wasn't a shift red. It was a shift in policy by both. I got to tell you, these motherfuckers. Say we again, motherfucker. Say we. Because Anna was a Jacobin, and now she's a fucking maggot. Say we again.
Take that wave of Prop 36, and instead of trying to fight against it, it would have washed them out. They joined it so that they could actually win.
So they did it just to win. They didn't think it was good policy? So which part of that is we, motherfucker? Say we again.
They were not because they're bad guys, but because...
No, they didn't do it. They didn't vote for poor people stealing shit to not do more time because they're bad guys. They just knew they had to do what they had to do to win, which is why these assholes apparently love Bernie, because he would never do that, even though that's exactly what he did to become a senator, change his position on fucking guns. He does it, it's fine, but when Democrats do it, it's just, hey man, it's what you got to do, so that they don't get red-pilled out to sea, you dumb motherfucker.
Because they were actually addressing what their voters wanted.
Exactly.
What the fuck? If it's what the voters wanted, it's not right or left. We have a representative government, a democracy, you dumb motherfucker. What in the ever-loving shit?
Exactly. That you're exactly right about.
Exactly. So right. You're so right. We're right. That's the way I look at it. We're right. We're so right. Say we again.
About that.
Thanks for watching the Young.
Oh, fuck you. I'm not watching that shit anymore. Good Lord. We. Fuck off. Damn. Just the laziest bunch of backtracking bullshit. It's just fucking aggravating. It's so fucking lame. Now, granted, I don't want you guys to think that only the allegedly formerly far left, like TYT, and I guess they weren't always far left. They were red-pilled, and then they were blue-pilled, and then red-pilled again, because they started off with their, spot the camel toe sexist horse shit, and then went complete ACAB or some shit, and then now Anna's like, who are these all cops are bastards people? Oh, TYT will tell you they're left. Oh, they absolutely, well, they might not now. I guess, I bet not now. Also, by the way, that last clip, for everyone who might try to hit it with a copyright strike at TYT, was me dissecting a media viewpoint and pointing out how it is fraudulent, it is ineffective in the message that they intend to sell, or intentionally effective at selling a message that they purport to be against. It's think of it as exposing fraud. How about that? So YouTube, if anybody hits me with a copyright strike about this shit, let me remind everybody that I have the right to break down that stuff, and I stopped it aplenty. I added a lot of content to that specifically. You don't get to use like copyright, especially in journalism, to stop people critiquing your shit. Yeah, fair use as fuck.